Simple component library. Let's dive right in. Here initially you got these helpful tips, got a few different sections here. Before you get started, they have these two links. They'll open up Safari to download the fonts from Apple, as well as this SF Symbols application. I can show you it here. It's kind of what it looks like. This is in a dark mode, and this is how I kind of change icons, and I'll show you how to do that when we dive into the file. Let's go back to Figma. The first thing you can do if you want to is change the action color. You'll be able to do that through the styles. Here's this blue action color. Click here, update it with this edit style, and if you change this, it'll basically change this throughout the app as your action color that you're using. We mainly use, as I'm building the app, these kind of color usage, background, label colors. We also have, when you do change icons, so as an example, you basically can pull up the app, select any icon. So let's say you want to do a person icon. Select that person, Command C to copy it, and then you can select any text. And once you select that text, you can hit Command V, or you can create a text and hit Command V, and there's your symbol. And this is really nice when you're actually editing symbol. So let's go into here. Let's say on your nav bar you want a home button, so let's edit this component. So let's find a house. Click on that, copy it, paste it there, call this home. Alright, and now when you pull that up, this is what you'll get as part of your component. Let's just undo those. But I like that way of editing the icons, makes it really easy. The last thing, throughout the components page, you'll see a bunch of these component tips, and here it's really nice to kind of understand what's going on with the component, how you edit it, because some of them, the components, you click on the components, you'll get all the variants on the right, and some of them you'll have to actually kind of click on a specific component, and I'll kind of take you through some of those to kind of show you how this component library is laid out. So now to the component library, you can see that it's divided into bars, views, and controls, and we have other as well, which is our keyboards, notifications, and widget sizes. And one thing I want to do, I want to make sure that this is simple. There's not a ton of stuff here. There's a lot of options you can choose from, but there's not a ton of components to choose from, which should get you going really fast. So all the bars, right, you have your tab bar, and here you have all your options, right, within all your variants within this right-hand column. As you can see that it updates the symbol, and then I kind of have that tip of using the SF symbols to change it if you need to. This one probably has one of the most variations, but I think it's really helpful. If it's in a modal, I can access that. If I need a large title, or if I need a search bar, you can kind of play with these different options to get the right situation you need for that moment. Tab bar, this one's a little different. It has two options. You have icons and text, and let's say you wanted, instead of having another drop down to select the item, all I need to do is select one and delete it, and it'll auto adjust to what you need. So there's another example, and here's just a little tip, is if you want to select so if you hit Command click, it'll click inside on the actual icon text layer, and if you move to the side or to any other icon, or even on the outer layer, you can click on that and it'll access the symbol to then delete it. So that's kind of how I typically dive into these components. You hit Command click and then click an icon next to it. Next we'll go into table groups, and here, similar to that header, the navigation header, you just kind of have, okay, if I want to add a header, I want to add description, if I want this full width or more of that kind of card look, I can do that. Tables, have your placeholder, alright, text. This is probably one of the more robust components, and all the different options you have. So you might have one without a label, this kind of with a label, 2 lines, and those are kind of your options. You have your 2 lines here if you want the full width there, and then you have your bottom rule. So let's say you don't want that bottom rule there, you can just swipe that and it'll remove it. With the table inputs, you also have kind of these two sides, right? You have these, if you notice, when I click on this right hand side, you have options, which are this list right here, and then you have your inputs, which is this list right here. So you have your date and your time, just your time, placeholder, as well as your off, which is basically saying I don't want this, I want to use one of these. And on this left side, you have, I can include the icon, I can put a subtitle, which you'll basically use this top one to add that subtitle, and then that's kind of basically it for this left side. And then if placeholder, again, that's kind of this top one, but really the only one you'll need is this icon. So that's kind of these options you're seeing here. Now on this one, again, if I command click and then click to this on the right, I can then say, okay, do I want, and this is my options now, do I want an arrow, and label, arrow plus label, check mark, drag icon, toggle on, toggle off, stepper, and the off is basically, you'll see it, and if I click into here, the options are off. If I click into here, the input's off. That's kind of just a gauge of what's happening here. And then one thing, this is not really part of the iOS library, but you have this table buttons, and here you can basically select left. I'll just drag this here, left, you got middle, you got right, and then you can remove the bottom rule. And I've used this a lot, it's just really helpful to kind of just get that button in here instead of finding a way to kind of place it using the table row, which is kind of the same layout. And this isn't a drop down just because it's really easy to kind of select what you need, so you can kind of see all your options up front. Action sheets, really similar. Pull those out, I can add 3 buttons or just the 2, or if I want to add a description, I can do that with or without the 3. And alerts is pretty similar. You have your side-by-side, 1 button, 2 button, 3 button layouts that you can adjust. With menus, this one acts a lot like the toolbar, where I just select one to delete it, and it will auto-adjust to however many options you'd like to add. We got some pickers, there's some basic pickers here. Mainly just drag and drop these in. You have your hours, your maybe duration in minutes, and then your typical just drop down. And then you have your date picker functionality, and then again, see how like all these colors, which are basically your action tips, those are the things that are going to change if you change that action color. A slider, this actually the drop down of 25, 50, 75, 100, just give you a little bit of extra options. And if you want to change these icons, all you have to do is jump into here. Let's say you want to do the sound or the speaker, and you could kind of do that. Maybe it's like mute on one side and then like a speaker on the other, right? So you want this one on one side, this on the other side. You can then kind of do that here. On the segment controls, you have 3 options or 2. Those are really kind of your 2 options. So, and then if you want to, let's say you want this one to be selected, you just have to command click on one, select the other, and then toggle that on. Select back the other one, toggle that one off, and as that text changes, you'll also be able to change that. It'll change with that toggle. And then you have your menu, which is for context or pull downs, and you have 2 options here, which are icons or no icons. And what's nice about this, let's say you need a larger list here, you can just detach this instance, and then all you do is you select one of these, and here you duplicate it, and it's just going to grow as much as you need to. And you'll want to include that, probably want to duplicate it at the second level, so it has that rule at the bottom, but that's the idea, that kind of grows as you disconnect. This thing here for the controls is the page view. This is the page controls. If you have multiple, and I kind of just did this as you either holding the page controls or not, and then if you wanted to, you could just remove options as you don't need them. So If you only need 3, just select it and delete it. Now kind of just the last little bit, you have your keyboard, which are just 2 options of numeric or not. And then you have your notifications. This has definitely a few more robust options. So I'll kind of pull that down here. You can change this icon just by updating this component here. I can add it with the title, without. If I want actions, if I want multiple notifications, you can kind of see the screen behind it. It looks better when it's behind something. And you can kind of see that behind it. And then let's say, actually just I want the actions, unless I need more than this, then I can actually change, I can select that specific component and change it to like 4 actions and then update this text as I need to. Last thing is a widget. This is mainly just to get sizes. These feel really custom. I haven't played too much around with it. Just kind of want to throw this in here as an extra little bit and really just have small, medium, and large, which is kind of what shows on the Apple HIG. And that's kind of an overview of the iOS Simple Component Library.